broken up, died, or devolved into tribute acts. But in my mind, the greatest rock bands the world has ever known were eternally frozen in their primes. To me, The Who was still the band on the cover of Who's Next. Sure enough, my reservations about seeing The Who without its original bassist and drummer disappeared approximately 1.2 seconds into the opening number, I Can't Explain. I was in awe of my heroes. Loving classic rock has always been an act of faith. Albums as sacred texts, live concerts as quasi-religious rituals, and rock mythology as a means of self-discovery. After discovering classic rock at the dawn of middle school, I committed myself to studying rock scripture. I read all of the books, subscribed to all of the magazines, and watched all of the documentaries. I sought out the most crucial LPs of the rock canon and played them over and over until the lyrics became my personal ethos. I loved the guitar riffs, the bombastic drums, the preening vocals. But what made classic rock an obsession for me was the belief that I was plugging into something profound and larger than life. I'm not a religious person, but if there is a God, I was sure I had found him on side 2 of Abbey Road. The mythology is what hooked me. Some kids read comic books, others glamorize athletes. My superheroes were rock stars who either had been deceased for decades or were well ensconced in the throes of middle age by the time I discovered them. But I didn't care. That just made my classic rock heroes all the more mythic. I worshipped Pete Townsend, Bob Dylan, Keith Richards, Jimmy Page, Jim Morrison, and Paul McCartney because they were distant, untouchable figures. They were like gods who I secretly believed could elevate my own humdrum existence if I had enough faith in the classic rock mythos. Of course, those people weren't gods at all, but rather mortals who would grow old, make comeback records with Don Was and/or Jeff Lynne, and take money from beer companies for their overpriced, nostalgia-driven concert tours. For a while, I was able to overlook these realities and fixate on the myth. But that night in 2012, inside of the hockey arena outside of Chicago, my faith in classic rock couldn't completely blot out the truth. I'll say this first. I thought The Who was incredible. How could The Who not be incredible? For this tour, they performed one of my favorite albums, 1973's Quadrophenia, in its entirety. Playing iconic albums in their entirety has become standard practice for classic rock bands. The days of forcing the audience to listen to 3 or 4 songs from a well-intentioned but mostly lousy late-career album nobody cares about are basically over. Time is precious, and classic rock tours now are all about the hits. On the way to the show, I passed the outlet mall where I'd bought Quadrophenia on cassette more than 20 years earlier when I was in the 8th grade. A double-album rock opera about an alienated teenager who suffers from multiple personality disorder, Quadrophenia should be issued free of charge to every 14-year-old misfit. I used to slap the tape in my Walkman and listen to Cut My Hair over and over. Pete Townsend sings in the chorus about working yourself to death just to fit in, just like I was doing, as Keith Moon's frantic drums replicate the erratic pounding of a broken teenage heart. On stage in Chicago, The Who labored to recreate an essential listening experience from my youth. During The Real Me, Daltrey twirled his microphone in precisely the manner I had always imagined him twirling his microphone. Then Townsend attacked his guitar during the suicidal rocker Drowned, bashing out his solo with about a dozen violent windmills. These guys were still extremely good at being The Who. I loved it. However, I was keenly aware that my enjoyment hinged on the ability to project an image onto The Who that no longer seemed wholly accurate. Despite their best efforts, Townsend and Daltrey seemed old.